When Kang Seonjun became CEO, the first thing he did was divorce the Ethiopian immigrant wife who'd helped him climb to the top. The second thing he did was try to erase her from existence. What he didn't account for was the man who'd been watching Sophia from the shadows for 2 years. A man whose quiet exterior hid connections that made corporate executives look like children playing pretend. By the time Seonjun realized his ex-wife had a guardian angel with blood on his hands, it was already too late. The lunch rush was in full swing when Sophia's husband walked into her restaurant with papers in his hand and a look on his face she'd never seen before. Cold, like she was already a stranger, Sophia didn't sit down. Didn't even glance at the injera bread cooling on the counter or the smell of berbere spices that used to make him smile. Sign these. She was holding a tray of coffee for table 3, steam rising between them. Her sous chef Hana froze at the stove. The 2 regulars by the window stopped talking. Sign what? Sophia set the tray down slowly. Kang Seonjun placed a folder on the counter between them, right next to the basket of warm bread. Divorce papers. My lawyer says if you cooperate, this'll be quick. The restaurant went silent. Even the street noise from outside seemed to disappear. Sophia stared at him. At this man she'd ironed shirts for at 5 in the morning before his presentations. This man she'd stayed up with, teaching him how to pronounce pharmaceutical terms in English because the investors were American. This man who used to hold her hand under the table at dinner parties when he got nervous. You're doing this here? Her voice came out steady. She was proud of that. In front of everyone, it's a public place. Neutral ground. He checked his watch, the new one, the Rolex she'd never seen before. I have a meeting at 2. If you have questions, call my attorney. His card is inside. Seonjun, it's over, Sophia. You know it is. I'm offering you a fair settlement. Take it. He slid the folder closer. And maybe think about going home, back to Addis. Your mother misses you, right? He said it like he was being kind, like he was doing her a favor. Hana made a sound behind her, something between a gasp and a curse in Amharic. Sophia picked up the folder. Her hands didn't shake. She opened it right there, read the first page. Irreconcilable differences. Division of assets, none of which apparently included anything with her name on it. A settlement offer that wouldn't cover 3 months of rent. Who is she? Sophia asked. Seonjun blinked. What? The woman. Who is she? For just a second, something flickered across his face. Guilt, maybe. Or annoyance at being caught. This isn't about anyone else. This is about us not working anymore. Sophia closed the folder. There is no us anymore, is there? There's you, the CEO. And there's me, the woman who helped you become one. You worked in my apartment and made me dinner. That's not exactly building a company. The regulars by the window stood up. One of them, an older Ethiopian man named Tesfaye, looked at Seonjun like he wanted to throw him out personally. Sophia shook her head at Tesfaye. Not worth it. She looked back at her husband. Soon-to-be ex-husband. Get out of my restaurant. Our restaurant, Seonjun corrected. Technically, the lease was co-signed. Get out before I make you leave. He smiled. Actually smiled. You've gotten dramatic. Maybe that's the problem. Then he left, the door swinging shut behind him, the little bell above it ringing cheerful and completely wrong for the moment. Hana rushed over. Sophia, oh my God, I'm fine. She wasn't. Her chest felt tight, her throat was closing up, but she had 4 tables waiting and the kimchi needed to be prepped for dinner service. Take the buna to table 3. I need a minute. She walked to the back office, shut the door, and stood there in the dark. Didn't cry. She'd save that for later, for when she was alone and no one could see. Right now, she just needed to breathe. Her phone buzzed, a text from a number she didn't recognize. Heard what happened. If you need anything, call me, Attorney Park Juno. She stared at the message. Who was this? How did he already know? Another text came through, this one from Seonjun's lawyer. Mrs. Kang, please review the settlement at your earliest convenience. We hope to resolve this matter discreetly and quickly. Discreetly, right. After he'd humiliated her in public, Sophia deleted the message and walked back into the kitchen. If you're listening to this and you've ever had someone treat you like you were disposable after you gave them everything, go ahead and leave a comment. Tell me I'm not alone in this, and if you're new here, maybe stick around. This story gets so much better, I promise. Hana was plating Doro Wat, her hands moving fast, but her eyes kept darting to Sophia. Stop looking at me like I'm broken, Sophia said. You're not broken. He is. Hana slid the plate across. Table 5, and Sophia, that lawyer who texted you, Park Juno? I called him. You what? He handles cases against rich jerks who think money means they can do whatever they want. My cousin used him when her boss tried to cheat her out of severance. He's good. Sophia should have been angry. She wasn't. She was tired. I can't afford a lawyer, Hannah. He does some cases pro bono. And he hates chiballs. Seonjun isn't a chibal, no, but his girlfriend is. Sophia stopped. What? Hana bit her lip. I didn't want to tell you like this. Tell me now. Choi Mireille. She's vice president at his company. Her family owns half the pharmaceutical suppliers in Seoul. People have been talking for months. Sophia felt something crack inside her chest, something that had been holding together by sheer force of will. How long have you known? I heard rumors maybe 6 months ago. But I didn't know if they were true, and I didn't want to hurt you if it was just gossip. 6 months. Right around when Seonjun became CEO. No, before that, he'd been seeing her before. The late meetings, the business trips, the way he stopped touching Sophia like he meant it. Table 5 is waiting, Sophia said quietly. Sophia, I'm fine, really. I just need to work. She delivered the food, refilled water glasses, smiled at customers, and pretended her world hadn't just collapsed in the middle of lunch service. At closing time, after Hannah left and the last customer paid their bill, Sophia sat alone at table 6. That's when she noticed him. A man across the street, standing under the awning of the closed bookstore. Tall, dark coat, hands in his pockets, just standing there watching. She'd seen him before. Not tonight, but other nights, other weeks, always at a distance, always still. A chill ran down her spine. She locked the door, turned off the lights, and went upstairs to her apartment above the restaurant. She didn't look out the window. She didn't want to know if he was still there. That night she read the divorce papers 3 times. Seonjun's lawyer had been thorough. According to the document, Sophia had contributed nothing of financial value to the marriage. She had no claim to his salary, his stock options, or his bonuses. The apartment they'd lived in was his before the marriage. The car was in his name. Even the furniture. She got the restaurant, which was currently operating at a loss. She got her clothes. She got nothing else. There was a line in the settlement that made her hands curl into fists. Respondent acknowledges that petitioner's career advancement was due solely to petitioner's professional skills and efforts, solely. Like she hadn't spent 4 years making sure he had clean shirts and hot meals, and someone who believed in him when he came home defeated. Like she hadn't been the one who translated Korean business documents at midnight, because his English wasn't good enough, and he was too proud to ask for help at work. Like she hadn't been the one who researched his competitors, who practiced presentation Q&A with him, who learned to bow at the exact right angle for every business dinner. Solely his effort. Sophia put the papers down and called the number Hannah had sent her. Park Juno answered on the second ring. Mrs. Kang, just Sophia. And I want to fight this. There was a pause, then good. Come to my office tomorrow. 10 in the morning. Bring every document you have from the last 4 years. Bank statements, emails, photos, everything. What are we fighting for? Recognition, compensation, and proof that he didn't get to the top alone. His voice was sharp, focused. Men like Kang Seonjun build empires on the backs of people they erase later. We're going to make sure the world knows exactly who helped him climb. Sophia felt something unfurl in her chest. Not hope, not yet, but something close. I'll be there. She hung up and looked at the papers again. Then she did something she hadn't let herself do in the restaurant. She cried. Hard, ugly crying that made her ribs hurt for the 4 years she'd lost, for the man she thought she'd married, for the version of herself who'd believed love was enough. When she was done, she washed her face, made coffee, and started gathering documents. If Seonjun wanted a war, she'd give him one. The next morning, Park Juno's office was smaller than she expected. 3rd floor of an older building in Mapo, no receptionist, just a cramped room with file boxes stacked against the walls and a desk covered in folders. Juno himself was young, maybe early 30s, with sharp eyes and a tie that didn't quite match his shirt. You brought the documents? He asked before she even sat down. Sophia handed over the folder she'd prepared. Bank statements showing transfers she'd made to Seonjun when he was between jobs 3 years ago. Emails where she'd translated contract terms. Photos from company dinners where she'd stood beside him smiling for investors. Juno flipped through them, his expression darkening with each page. He's claiming you contributed nothing? That's what the paper says. He's either stupid or arrogant. Maybe both. Juno leaned back. Here's what's going to happen. His lawyer is going to pressure you to settle quickly. They'll imply that fighting will make things harder for your visa status, your business, your reputation. They'll hint that Seonjun has resources you don't. He does. He has money. That's not the same as being right. Juno tapped the folder. We're going to file a counter-petition. You're not asking for alimony. You're asking for compensation for unpaid labor and professional contributions that directly resulted in his career advancement. Can we prove that? You already did. These emails alone show you were functioning as an unpaid consultant. He pulled out one specific message. This one, where you translated a meeting summary between Seonjun and an Ethiopian health official. Do you remember it? Sophia frowned. Vaguely, it was 2 years ago. Some deal about distributing medication in East Africa. Do you remember what was said? Not really. I just translated what they asked me to. Juno made a note. We'll come back to that. For now, we build the case that you were a financial and professional partner, not a dependent spouse. His lawyer will say I was just being a supportive wife. Let him. We have documentation. He has a narrative. Juno smiled, thin and cold. Documentation wins. Sophia left the office feeling something she hadn't felt since Seonjun walked into her restaurant. Control, not over him, over herself. That afternoon, 3 things happened in quick succession. First, her landlord called. The building had been sold, new ownership, and they were terminating her lease in 60 days. Second, her primary supplier for teff flour, the grain she needed for injera, sent an email saying they couldn't fulfill her orders anymore. No explanation, just a polite note saying they were restructuring their client list. Third, a health inspector showed up unannounced and spent 2 hours going through her kitchen with the kind of scrutiny usually reserved for criminal investigations. Hannah watched the inspector leave and turned to Sophia, her face pale. This isn't a coincidence. No, Sophia agreed. It's not. Someone was trying to suffocate her. Slowly, methodically, strategically, she texted Juno. Landlord terminating lease. Supplier dropped me. Health inspection today. Is this legal? His response came fast. Legal but coordinated. Someone's putting pressure on your vendors. Do you know who? She didn't. But she could guess. Choi Murray had family connections all over Seoul. Pharmaceutical supply chains, real estate holdings, political leverage. If Murray wanted Sophia gone, she had the resources to make it happen without ever showing her face. Sophia looked around her restaurant. The chairs Hannah's brother had helped her paint. The art on the walls from a local Ethiopian artist. The menu she'd designed herself, blending Korean tastes with her mother's recipes. She'd built this from nothing. She wasn't giving it up. That night, table 6 had a customer. The man in the dark coat. Sophia noticed him the moment she turned the sign to open for dinner service. He was already there, sitting in the corner, hands folded on the table. She'd never seen him inside before. He was older than Seonjun, maybe mid-30s. Quiet in a way that made people look twice. Not handsome in an obvious way, but striking. The kind of face you didn't forget. Hannah whispered, "Do you know him?" "No." "You? He's been coming here for weeks, always orders buna, never anything else. Tips too much. Doesn't talk." Sophia grabbed a notepad and walked over. "Good evening. What can I get you?" He looked up, and for a second she forgot what she was going to say. His eyes were dark, calm, and completely unreadable. "Buna," he said. His voice was low, quiet. "And injera with Dora Watt, if you have it." "We do." Good, he didn't say anything else. Just looked at her like he was waiting for something. Sophia shifted her weight. "Anything else?" "No, thank you." She walked back to the counter, feeling his gaze follow her. "That guy is weird," Hannah muttered. "He's just quiet. Quiet people are either really nice or really dangerous. There's no middle." Sophia made the coffee herself, the traditional way, roasting the beans and grinding them fresh. She didn't know why, she just felt like it needed to be done right. When she brought it to his table, he was looking out the window at the street. "Here, thank you." He didn't touch it right away, just looked at it, steam rising between them. "You make it the old way, it's the right way. My grandmother would agree with you." It was the most he'd said since sitting down. Sophia hesitated. "Have we met before?" "No, you sure?" "You seem familiar." His expression didn't change. "I have one of those faces." "Not really." He almost smiled. "Almost." "Your husband was here yesterday." Sophia stiffened. "You saw that?" "Everyone saw it. And I think you deserve better than that." She didn't know what to say. This stranger, this man she'd never spoken to, had just said the thing she'd needed to hear and hadn't gotten from anyone. "Thank you," she said quietly. He nodded once. She went back to the kitchen, her chest tight again but in a different way. Hannah was watching through the window. What did he say? Nothing important, but it was. Somehow it was. The man stayed until closing. He ate slowly, drank his coffee, and paid in cash with a tip that was double the bill. When he left, Sophia found a business card on the table. No name. Just a phone number and 4 words in neat handwriting. "If you need help." She should have thrown it away. She didn't. She kept it in her pocket all night, the edges going soft from her fingers tracing the numbers. At midnight, she got a call from her mother in Addis Ababa. "Sophia, men came to the house today." Her blood went cold. "What men?" They didn't say. "They asked about you, about your restaurant, about your husband." Her mother's voice shook. They wanted to know if you were coming home soon. What did you tell them? That I don't know your business. But Sophia, I'm scared. Who are these people? I don't know, Mama. But I'll handle it. She hung up and sat in the dark, her hands shaking. Seonjin was threatening her family now. That's what this was. A message. Stop fighting or people you love get hurt. She looked at the business card on her table. Then she picked up her phone and dialed the number. It rang 3 times, then a voice calm and low. Hello, Sophia. He knew it was her. He'd been waiting. You said if I needed help. I did. I need help. Silence. Then where are you? My apartment. Above the restaurant. Lock your door. I'll be there in 20 minutes. He hung up. Sophia sat in the dark and waited for a man she didn't know, offering help she didn't understand, because the man she'd married for 4 years had just become someone she didn't recognize at all. And somewhere in the back of her mind, a voice whispered that maybe she'd just made the most dangerous decision of her life. 20 minutes later, there was a knock. Sophia opened the door. The man from table 6 stood in the hallway, hands in his coat pockets, expression unreadable. I'm Kwon Yi-chan, he said. And the way he said it made her realize she'd just let someone very dangerous into her life. End of part 1. I'll continue with part 2 when you're ready. Let me know if you'd like me to proceed with the next 5,000 words. Beneath his crown, part 2. Sophia didn't step back. She should have. Something in her gut told her this man was not what he seemed, that letting him into her apartment was crossing a line she couldn't uncross. But her mother's voice was still echoing in her head. Men came to the house. Come in, she said. Yi-chan stepped inside, his movements careful, like he was aware of every inch of space he occupied. He didn't look around the apartment the way most people did. He looked at her. Tell me what happened. Sophia closed the door and told him everything. The divorce, the landlord, the supplier, the health inspection. And then the phone call from her mother. Yi-chan listened without interrupting. His face didn't change. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Your husband is trying to pressure you into signing quickly. I figured that part out. He's using his girlfriend's connections. Choi Murray's family controls a lot of supply chains in Seoul. Real estate, imports, pharmaceutical distribution. How do you know that? I pay attention. To what? Everything. Sophia crossed her arms. Who are you, really? Someone who doesn't like seeing people get crushed by others with more money and less conscience. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have right now. She studied him. He didn't look away. Most people did when she stared too long. Yi-chan didn't. Why do you care what happens to me? She asked. Because you make good coffee and you didn't deserve what he did to you in front of everyone. That's it? That's enough. It wasn't the whole truth. She could feel it, but she was too tired to dig deeper. What can you do about my mother? I'll make sure she's safe. No one will bother her again. How? Does it matter? Yes. Yi-chan tilted his head slightly. I know people in Addis. I'll ask them to check in quietly. Your mother won't even know they're there. You know people in Ethiopia? I know people everywhere. The way he said it made her skin prickle. Not in fear, in awareness. What about my landlord, my supplier? Give me their information. I'll handle it. Just like that, just like that. Sophia stepped closer. What do you want in return? Nothing. Nobody helps for nothing. I do. Why? He looked at her for a long moment, something flickering behind his eyes that she couldn't read. Because 2 years ago I walked into your restaurant on the worst day of my life, and you gave me coffee and talked to me like I was a person. You didn't ask what was wrong. You didn't pry. You just made me feel like the world wasn't completely broken. His voice was quiet, steady. I remember things like that. Sophia's throat tightened. I don't even remember that day. I do. The air between them felt heavy, charged with something she didn't have a name for. I don't want to owe anyone, she said finally. You don't. If I let you help, what happens when you decide there's a price after all? Then you tell me to leave and I will. Just like that? Just like that. She wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to. Okay, she said, help me. Yi-chan nodded once. Write down your landlord's name and your supplier's contact. I'll take care of it tonight. Tonight? The sooner this stops, the sooner you can focus on the divorce. He said it like it was simple. Like unraveling coordinated corporate pressure was something he did on a regular Tuesday. Maybe it was. Sophia wrote down the information and handed it to him, their fingers brushed. His hands were warm. Thank you, she said. Don't thank me yet. Why not? Because the people coming after you won't stop just because I ask nicely. This is going to get worse before it gets better. How much worse? Depends on how desperate your husband is. Sophia thought about Seonjin's face in the restaurant. The coldness, the watch. The way he looked at her like she was an obstacle, not a person. He's very desperate, she said quietly. Yi-chan's jaw tightened. Then we'll match it. He left a few minutes later, and Sophia stood in her apartment, wondering what she'd just set in motion. She didn't sleep that night. The next morning, her landlord called. "Mrs. Kang, I need to apologize. There was a misunderstanding about the building sale. Your lease is secure. In fact, we're offering you a renewal at the current rate for another 3 years if you're interested." Sophia gripped the phone. "What changed?" "Just some clarification on the ownership transition. Nothing for you to worry about." He sounded nervous. Actually nervous. "I'll think about the renewal," she said. "Of course. Take your time." She hung up and stared at the wall. An hour later, her TEF supplier emailed. They'd had a cancellation from another client and could fulfill her orders after all. Better terms than before, actually. "Apologies for the confusion." Sophia sat down slowly. Yi-chan had done this overnight, without even telling her it was finished. What kind of person had that much reach? Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Your mother is fine. Someone will keep an eye on things. You won't see them, but they'll be there," she texted back. "This was you," the reply came instantly. "Drink your coffee." "It's getting cold." Sophia looked down. There was no coffee. She hadn't made any yet. She walked to the window and looked down at the street. Yi-chan was standing across the road, phone in his hand, looking up at her window. He didn't wave, didn't smile, just stood there, a still point in the morning crowd. Then he put his phone away and walked off, disappearing into the subway entrance. Sophia's heart was beating too fast. Hannah arrived 20 minutes later and immediately knew something had happened. "You look different." "I didn't sleep." "No, not that." "You look, I don't know, less scared." Sophia told her about the landlord and the supplier. Hannah's eyes went wide. "How did that happen?" "I got help." "From who?" "The guy at table 6, the quiet one?" Hannah's voice dropped. "Sophia, what did you do?" "I asked him for help and he gave it." "Nobody helps like that unless they want something." "He says he doesn't, and you believe him?" Sophia thought about the way Yi-chan had looked at her, the way he'd remembered a day she'd forgotten, the way he'd said her name like it mattered. "I don't know what I believe anymore." Before Hannah could respond, the door opened and Park Juno walked in. He looked rattled. "We need to talk now." They sat at table 6. Juno pulled out his laptop and turned it towards Sophia. On the screen was a news article from a tabloid site. The headline made her stomach drop. "CEO's estranged wife linked to suspected criminal enterprise." Below it was a photo of Yi-chan leaving her apartment building last night. "Who is this man?" Juno asked. Sophia couldn't breathe. A friend with a very interesting reputation." Juno clicked to another tab. "Kwon Yi-chan. No official criminal record, but his name comes up in police reports going back 10 years. Associated with the Chungyang Group, money laundering allegations that never stuck. Witness intimidation charges that disappeared. He's not just connected, Sophia. He's dangerous." The room tilted. "That's not possible." "It's very possible. And now you're in a photo with him, and Seonjun's legal team is going to use this to destroy your credibility." Juno leaned forward. "They'll say you're involved with organized crime. They'll say the marriage failed because of your associations. They'll paint you as a liability, maybe even a threat. I didn't know who he was." "Doesn't matter. The photo exists." Sophia looked at the picture again. Yi-chan's face was partially shadowed, but it was clearly him, clearly her building. Someone had been watching. Someone had been waiting for exactly this moment. She whispered. "Probably. She hired a private investigator 3 weeks ago. I have a source who confirmed it." Juno closed the laptop. "This is a coordinated attack, Sophia. They're not just trying to win the divorce. They're trying to ruin you." Hannah made a sound like she'd been punched. Sophia stood up. "I need to talk to Yi-chan." "Bad idea," Juno said immediately. "Any further contact with him makes this worse. He helped me. I need to know why. You need to stay away from him before this turns into a criminal investigation with you in the middle." But Sophia was already grabbing her coat. She found Yi-chan 3 blocks away, standing outside a convenience store with a coffee in his hand like he'd been waiting. "You saw the article," he said. "Not a question." "Who are you?" Her voice shook. "And don't tell me you're just someone who pays attention." Yi-chan looked at her for a long moment. "Let's walk." They walked along the river, the morning cold biting through Sophia's jacket. Yi-chan didn't seem to notice the temperature. "I run a business," he said finally. "Not a legal one." "Not entirely." "What kind of business?" "The kind that operates in spaces the law doesn't reach." "You're a criminal." "Yes." The honesty was worse than a lie would have been. "And you've been coming to my restaurant for 2 years." "Yes." "Why?" "Because the coffee is good and you never treated me like I was anything other than a customer." "That's not a reason to help me." Yi-chan stopped walking. He turned to face her, and for the first time she saw something raw in his expression. I've spent 15 years in a world where everything is a transaction, where loyalty is bought and respect is fear wearing a different name. And then I walked into your restaurant and you argued with me about whether the coffee was too bitter. And you laughed when I mispronounced Doro, and you didn't want anything from me except payment for a meal. His voice was quiet, controlled, but she could hear something beneath it. You have no idea how rare that is. Sophia's chest ached. So you what, decided to protect me? I decided I didn't want to see you hurt. By helping me, you've made everything worse. There's a photo of us. Seonjun's lawyers are going to say I'm involved with criminals. I know. You knew this would happen? I knew it was possible. And you helped me anyway? Yes. Why? Because you asked. Sophia wanted to scream. Or cry, or both. I can't be seen with you anymore. My lawyer says any contact makes the case worse, then we won't be seen. That's not how this works. It's exactly how this works. Yi-chan's voice was calm, certain. I've spent my entire life not being seen. I can help you without anyone knowing. I don't want your help if it comes from whatever it is you do. It's too late for that. I already helped. The landlord, the supplier, your mother, that was me. Then undo it. No, Yi-chan, no. He stepped closer. Not threatening, just present. You're fighting people with resources and connections you can't match. I can match them. I can make sure you get a fair outcome, but only if you let me. Sophia shook her head. I don't want to be someone who needs a criminal to solve her problems. You're not. You're someone who got ambushed by a system designed to protect people like your husband. I'm just evening the odds. If you're still here listening, drop a comment and tell me if you think Sophia should trust him or run. Because I'm honestly not sure what I'd do. And hit that subscribe button if you want to know what happens next. This gets so much more complicated. I need time to think, Sophia said. You don't have time. Seonjun is meeting with his board tomorrow. They're going to discuss the clinical trial issue. Sophia froze. What clinical trial? Yi-chan hesitated. Tell me, she demanded. Your lawyer found something. A suppressed report about Eugen Group's primary drug. Adverse effects that were buried before the product launched. How do you know that? Because I make it my business to know things. Park Juno just found that yesterday. He hasn't even told me the details yet. Yi-chan said nothing. The realization hit her like cold water. You have access to my lawyer's files. I have access to a lot of things. That's illegal. Yes, you can't just spy on people helping me. I can and I did. Because the information in those files means you're not just a divorced wife anymore, Sophia. You're a witness. And witnesses to corporate crimes have a habit of disappearing or being discredited before they can talk. Her pulse was racing now. What are you saying? I'm saying that dinner you translated 2 years ago, the one with the Ethiopian health official, that wasn't just business networking. That was Seonjun and his executives arranging to bury adverse event reports from an African drug trial. You heard the conversation. You translated parts of it. That makes you a liability. The ground felt unsteady beneath her feet. I don't remember what was said. Doesn't matter if you remember. Matters if they think you remember. Sophia sat down on a bench, her legs suddenly weak. Yi-chan sat beside her, not touching, just there. I didn't sign up for this, she whispered. I just wanted a divorce. I know. And now I'm connected to organized crime and corporate cover-ups, and I don't even know what's real anymore. I'm real. The help I'm offering is real. She looked at him. Why should I trust you? 'Cause I've never lied to you, not once. I've hidden things, yes, but I've never lied. That's not the same as being trustworthy. No, he agreed. It's not. But it's all I have. They sat in silence for a long time, watching the river move past, people walking by with their normal lives and normal problems. Finally, Sophia spoke. If I let you help, I need rules. Okay, no illegal surveillance on my lawyer. Too late for that, but I'll stop. No threatening people unless absolutely necessary. Define necessary. If someone's life is in danger. Yi-chan nodded slowly. I can agree to that, and you tell me the truth. About what you're doing and why. That one's harder. That one's not negotiable. He looked at her, something like respect crossing his face. All right. Truth as much as I can give without putting you in more danger. And one more thing. What? You teach me to say your name properly in Korean. I've been pronouncing it wrong, haven't I? The corner of his mouth moved. Not quite a smile, but close, yes. But I liked hearing you try. She felt her face warm and looked away. So we have a deal, she asked. We have a deal. They shook hands. His grip was firm, warm, steady. When Sophia got back to the restaurant, there were 2 men waiting outside. They weren't customers. They wore dark suits and had the kind of posture that said military or security or something worse. One of them stepped forward when she approached. Sophia Tades, yes. We need you to come with us. Her heart stopped. Why? Questions about your relationship with Kwon Yi-chan. I don't have a relationship with him. The photo says otherwise. The photo shows him leaving my building. That's not a crime. No, but associating with known criminals while involved in a legal proceeding raises questions. The man pulled out a badge. Police. We'd like to ask you some questions at the station. Hannah appeared in the doorway. Sophia, what's happening? It's fine, Sophia said, trying to keep her voice steady. Call Park Juno. Tell him I'm going to the police station. Sophia, no, just call him. The police car ride was silent. They didn't handcuff her, didn't treat her like a criminal, but the message was clear. Someone was sending a warning. At the station, they put her in a small room with a table and 2 chairs. She sat alone for 40 minutes before anyone came in. When the door opened, it wasn't a police officer, it was Choi Mirai. She was beautiful in that calculated way. Perfect hair, perfect makeup, perfect suit. She looked at Sophia like she was something unpleasant on the bottom of her shoe, Mrs. Kang. Or should I say Miss Tedess? I hear you're planning to take back your maiden name. Sophia didn't answer. Mirai sat down across from her, crossing her legs elegantly. I'm going to be very clear with you because I don't believe in wasting time. Seonjun is mine. He has been for over a year. The only reason he stayed married to you this long was because divorce looks bad during a CEO transition. But now the transition is complete and you're just an obstacle. Is there a point to this? The point is that you're going to sign the settlement papers and disappear quietly. And in exchange, this whole unfortunate situation with the police goes away. I didn't do anything wrong. You were photographed with a known associate of organized crime. You're currently under investigation for possible involvement in illegal activities. Your visa status is under review. Your restaurant's business license is being audited. Mirai leaned forward. I can make all of that disappear. Or I can make it so much worse. Sophia's hands curled into fists under the table. You can't just threaten me into giving up. I'm not threatening you. I'm explaining reality. You're a foreign woman with no family in Korea, no legal status outside of your marriage, and no resources to fight people like us. You've already lost. The only question is whether you lose gracefully or painfully. Get out. Excuse me. You're not a police officer. You have no right to be in this room. Get out before I start screaming. Mirai's smile was ice. You know what I admire about you, Sophia. Your stubbornness. It's almost impressive. But stubbornness without power is just noise. She stood. Sign the papers. Go home to Ethiopia. Find a nice man who'll appreciate you. Because if you keep fighting, I promise you'll regret it. She left, her heels clicking on the tile floor. 10 minutes later, Park Juno burst in. Are you okay? Can they question you? No, just Mirai. She threatened me. Juno's face darkened. She can't do that. That's witness intimidation. She didn't intimidate a witness. She intimidated Seonjun's ex-wife. There's a difference, apparently. A police officer appeared in the doorway. You're free to go, miss. Tedess, we have no further questions at this time. At this time, Sophia repeated. Ongoing investigation, the officer said without emotion. Juno drove her back to the restaurant. Neither of them spoke for most of the drive. Finally, Juno said, this is bigger than I thought. What do you mean? Mirai's family doesn't just have business connections. They have political ones. The fact that the police brought you in for questioning based on a tabloid photo means someone made a call. Someone with weight. Can they arrest me? Not without evidence of an actual crime. But they can make your life miserable while they look for one. Sophia closed her eyes. I just wanted a fair divorce, I know, but you stumbled into something bigger. The clinical trial cover-up, the connections to organized crime, Mirai's family interests. You're standing in the middle of a lot of powerful people's secrets. So what do? You fight. Or you run. I'm not running, then we fight. But Sophia, you need to be prepared for this to get uglier. How much uglier? Juno pulled up outside her restaurant and looked at her seriously. The kind of ugly where people get hurt. That night, Sophia couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. She sat in her apartment with all the lights on, jumping at every sound. At 2 in the morning, there was a knock at her door. She looked through the peephole. Yi-chan. She opened the door. How did you know? She asked. I always know. He looked tired, which was strange because she'd never seen him look anything but composed. Are you all right? No. Can I come in? She stepped aside. Yi-chan walked to her window and looked out at the street, his hands in his pockets. Mirai made a mistake today. What mistake? She showed you she's scared. People who are winning don't make threats, they just win. She didn't seem scared, she was. Because you're not folding. She expected you to sign the papers and leave, and instead you hired a lawyer and started building a case. Now she's scrambling. He turned to face her. That's good for you. Doesn't feel good. It won't. Not for a while. But you're stronger than she expected, and that's throwing off her entire strategy. Sophia sat down on her couch, exhausted. I don't feel strong. I feel terrified. Yi-chan crossed the room and sat in the chair across from her, keeping distance between them. Terrified is normal. Giving up is what she wants. As long as you're still fighting, you're winning. The police think I'm a criminal. The police think what they're told to think. Give it a week. Something else will distract them. You sound very sure. I am. Why? Because I'm going to make sure they have something bigger to worry about than a restaurant owner who talked to the wrong person. Sophia looked at him. What are you going to do? Nothing you need to know about. We had a deal. Truth, Yi-chan was quiet for a long moment. I'm going to remind certain people that harassing you comes with consequences they're not prepared for. You're going to threaten them. I'm going to have a conversation. That's the same thing. Not the way I do it. Sophia should have told him not to. Should have said she'd handle this legally, properly, without violence or intimidation. But she was so tired of being scared. Okay, she said quietly. Yi-chan's eyes widened slightly. Okay, do what you need to do, just don't tell me the details. Sophia, I mean it. I don't want to know. I just want this to stop. He studied her face for a long moment, and she saw something shift in his expression. Something that looked almost like pain. You're not supposed to have to make choices like this, he said softly. But I do. So I'm making them. Yi-chan stood. I'll take care of it. You won't hear from the police again. And Mireille, she's more complicated. But I'll handle it. He walked to the door, then paused. Sophia, yes? When this is over, when you're safe and the divorce is settled, and you don't need my help anymore, I'll leave you alone if that's what you want. Her throat tightened. Why are you telling me that? Because I need you to know that I'm not doing this to trap you or obligate you or make you owe me. I'm doing this because I can't stand watching you suffer when I have the power to stop it. That sounds like more than just good coffee and a nice conversation. It is. He left before she could respond. Sophia sat in her empty apartment and realized that somewhere between the divorce papers and the police station and the quiet man who kept showing up when she needed him, her life had become something she didn't recognize. And the scariest part was that she wasn't sure she wanted to go back to the version she used to know. The next morning, the investigation was dropped. No explanation. The police just called and said they had no further questions. Park Juno called 10 minutes later. Did you do something? No, someone did. The case file was closed overnight. Sophia looked out her window. Across the street, barely visible in the early morning crowd, was a familiar figure in a dark coat. Yi-chan, he didn't look up, didn't acknowledge her, just stood there for a moment, then walked away. Sophia, Juno's voice came through the phone. Are you there? I'm here. We need to talk about the clinical trial evidence. I'm meeting with a prosecutor this afternoon. This could change everything. Okay, you don't sound excited. I'm just tired. She hung up and got ready for another day of pretending her world wasn't falling apart. But when she opened the restaurant that morning, there was a line of customers waiting. Hana was already inside, prepping. Where did all these people come from? Sophia had no idea. Then she saw it, a review on a popular Korean food blog, 5 stars. Glowing description of the coffee and the injera. Photos of the restaurant's interior. Posted at 6 this morning, the blogger had 300,000 followers. Sophia pulled out her phone and texted Yi-chan, "Did you do this?" The reply came fast. "You needed customers, now you have them. This is manipulation. This is marketing." There's a difference. Despite everything, despite the fear and the chaos and the impossible situation she was in, Sophia smiled. Then she put on her apron and got to work. Because if she was going down, she was going down fighting. And apparently she had backup she never asked for and probably didn't deserve. But she was learning that sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is accept help from the right person at the wrong time. Or maybe the wrong person at the right time. She still wasn't sure which one Yi-chan was. End of part 2. Let me know when you're ready for part 3, the final 5,000 words. Beneath his crown, part 3, the restaurant was packed for 3 days straight. Sophia barely had time to think, which was probably a good thing. Every time she slowed down, her brain tried to process the impossible situation she was in. A husband who wanted her erased. A lawyer building a case that could destroy a pharmaceutical company. A criminal who kept solving her problems from the shadows, and a tabloid following her every move. On the 4th day, everything exploded at once. It started with Park Juno calling at 7 in the morning. Turn on the news. Channel 5. Sophia grabbed the remote. The headline scrolled across the bottom of the screen. Eugen Group under investigation for clinical trial fraud. Her legs went weak. The news anchor was reading from a report. Suppressed data. Adverse effects in Ethiopian trial participants. A cover-up that went all the way to the executive level. The prosecutor's office had opened an investigation. "How did this happen?" Sophia whispered into the phone. "I gave them the evidence yesterday." "I didn't think they'd move this fast." Juno sounded stunned. "Someone high up must have pushed this through." Sophia knew exactly who. Her phone buzzed. A text from Yuchan. "Watch the news. Don't go outside today. I'm sending someone to stay with the restaurant." She texted back. "You did this. The prosecutor did this. I just made sure he paid attention." "How? You said you didn't want details." Sophia sat down hard on her couch. On the TV, the news had switched to footage of Eugen Group headquarters. Reporters were swarming the entrance. Then the screen cut to a photo of Seonjun. CEO Kang Seonjun has refused to comment, but sources say he was present at meetings where the suppressed data was discussed. The anchor's voice continued. Investigators are seeking to interview several individuals, including Kang's ex-wife, Sophia Tades, who may have been present at key meetings. Sophia's face appeared on screen. An old photo from a company event, her standing next to Seonjun smiling. "Oh no," she breathed. Her phone started ringing, unknown numbers. She let them go to voicemail. Hannah called. "Sophia, there are reporters outside the restaurant. Don't let them in. Don't talk to them." "What's happening?" "I'll explain later. Just keep the doors locked until I get there." Sophia got dressed, her hands shaking. When she looked out her window, there were 3 people with cameras on the street below. Her phone rang again. This time it was a number she recognized, Seonjun. She almost didn't answer. But something made her pick up. "You destroyed me." His voice was shaking with rage. "You gave them everything. I gave them the truth. You were supposed to sign the papers and leave. That's all you had to do. But you couldn't just take the settlement and be grateful." "Grateful?" Sophia's voice rose. "You humiliated me in public, threatened my family, and tried to erase 4 years of my life. Why would I be grateful? Because I gave you a chance. I married you when you were nobody. I could have left you serving coffee to backpackers for the rest of your life." The words hit like a slap. "You're right," Sophia said quietly. "You did give me a chance to see exactly who you are. And I'm glad I found out before I wasted any more time. This isn't over. You think you've won because some prosecutor is asking questions? I have lawyers. I have connections. I'll bury this investigation, and when I do, I'm coming after you for defamation, for corporate espionage, for everything I can think of. Do what you want, Seonjun. I'm not afraid of you anymore." She hung up. Then she called Yi Chan. He answered immediately. "Are you safe? There are reporters outside." "I know. Someone's already on the way to get you out. I need to get to the restaurant, not through the front. There's a back entrance through the building next door. Go down to the basement, through the storage area, and out the service exit. My guy will meet you there." "How do you know my building layout?" "I know everything about places you spend time. That's how I keep you safe." It should have been creepy. Somehow it wasn't. Sophia grabbed her coat and followed his instructions. In the basement, a man in a black jacket was waiting. He didn't introduce himself, just nodded and led her through a maze of storage rooms and out into an alley. A car was waiting. Not fancy, just a normal sedan. The man opened the back door. Yi Chan was inside. "Get in," Sophia slid in beside him. The car pulled away before she even closed the door. "Where are we going?" "Away from cameras. We need to talk." They drove in silence for 10 minutes, heading away from Itaewon into quieter neighborhoods. Finally, the car pulled into an underground parking garage, empty except for a few vehicles. The driver got out, leaving them alone. Yi Chan turned to face her. "Seonjun's going to retaliate. Not legally, he can't afford more attention right now. But he'll try something else." "Like what?" "Like making you disappear from the narrative entirely. Discredit you before you can testify. The prosecutor hasn't even asked me to testify. They will. You were at that dinner. You translated the conversation. You're a witness whether you want to be or not." Sophia's stomach twisted. "I don't remember what was said. Doesn't matter. The fact that you were there is enough. And that makes you dangerous. So what do I do?" Yi Chan was quiet for a moment, his jaw tight. "You let me protect you. How? By staying close, by not going anywhere alone. By trusting that I won't let anything happen to you. You can't watch me 24 hours a day." "Yes, I can." The certainty in his voice made her chest tight. "Yi Chan, this is insane. You can't just put your entire life on hold to babysit me. I'm not babysitting you. I'm making sure you survive long enough to see Seonjun face consequences. Why does this matter so much to you?" He looked at her, and for the first time since she'd met him, his careful control cracked. Because I've spent 15 years watching people with power destroy people without it. I've been the person doing the destroying more times than I can count. And then I met you, and you were kind for no reason, and you didn't want anything from me, and I thought maybe there was still something in the world worth protecting." His voice was rough, raw. "So yes, I'm going to keep you safe, even if you hate me for it. Even if you never want to see me again after this is over, I don't care. You're going to survive this." Sophia couldn't breathe. "I don't hate you," she whispered. "You should. I don't." They sat in the quiet car, the weight of everything unsaid pressing down between them. Finally, Sophia said, "What happens now? Now we wait for Seonjun to make his move. And when he does, we end this." 2 days later, Seonjun made his move. Sophia was closing the restaurant when 3 men walked in. They weren't customers. They had the same energy as the men who'd been outside her building, the ones Yi-chan had warned her about. Hana saw them and immediately stepped in front of Sophia. "We're closed. We're not here to eat," one of them said. He was older, maybe 50, with a scar across his cheek. "We're here to deliver a message." "I don't want your message," Sophia said. "You'll want this one. Walk away from the prosecutor. Tell them you don't remember anything from that dinner. Say you were mistaken about what you heard, and if I don't?" Smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Then accidents happen. Restaurants catch fire. People get hurt. You understand?" Hana grabbed a knife from the counter. "Get out." The man laughed. "Relax. We're just talking." "You're threatening," Sophia said. Her voice was steady even though her heart was hammering. "And you can tell whoever sent you that I'm not backing down." The man's smile disappeared. "You're making a mistake. Wouldn't be my first." He stepped closer. "You think that guy watching you can stop all of us? You think Kwon Ye-chan is scary? He's nothing compared to the people backing Kang Seonjun. Then why are you here delivering threats instead of just doing whatever you came to do?" The question hung in the air. The man's jaw tightened. 3 days. That's how long you have to call the prosecutor. After that, we stop asking nicely. They left. Sophia's legs almost gave out. Hana caught her arm. "We need to call the police." "No." Sophia pulled out her phone. "We need to call someone else." Yi-chan answered on the first ring. 3 men just threatened me at the restaurant. Said I have 3 days to back out of testifying or they'll burn the place down. Silence. Then, in a voice colder than she'd ever heard from him, "Describe them." She did. "Stay there. Lock the doors. I'm coming." He arrived in 15 minutes with 2 other men. They swept through the restaurant, checking the back entrance, the windows, the storage room. Yi-chan pulled Sophia aside. "You're not staying here tonight. This is my home. It's not safe. Nowhere is safe, apparently. My place is." She stared at him. "I can't stay with you." "Why not?" Because that's crossing a line. The line was crossed the moment those men walked in here and threatened to burn down everything you've built." His eyes were hard, angry. "You're staying with me until this is over. That's not negotiable. You can't just decide that. I can and I am. Pack a bag or don't, but you're leaving in 10 minutes either way." Sophia wanted to argue. But she was tired, scared, and running out of options. "Fine, but I'm bringing Hana." Yi-chan nodded. "Good. She can stay too." His apartment was not what Sophia expected. She'd imagined something dark, maybe violent looking. Instead, it was clean, minimalist, with big windows overlooking the Han River, books on the shelves. A kitchen that actually looked used. "Guest room is down the hall," Yi-chan said. 2 beds. Bathrooms attached. "You need anything, I'm here." Hana was looking around like she'd stepped into another dimension. "This is where you live?" "Yes. It's nice, thank you." The normalcy of the conversation was surreal. Sophia set her bag down. "How long do we stay?" "Until I handle the people who threatened you." "Handle how?" "You said you didn't want details. I'm changing the rules." "Tell me." Yi-chan looked at her for a long moment. Then he said, "I'm going to find out who sent them. Then I'm going to make it very clear that touching you or your business will result in consequences they're not prepared for. Violence. Pressure. There's a difference. Not much of one, enough of one." Sophia sat down on the couch, exhausted. "This is my life now. Hiding in a criminal's apartment while he threatens other criminals on my behalf. If it helps, I'm a very successful criminal." She laughed. It came out half-sob. "That doesn't help at all." Yi-chan sat in the chair across from her, keeping distance. "I know this isn't what you wanted. I know I'm not what you wanted. But I'm what you have right now, and I'm going to make sure you survive this. And then what? Then you go back to your life and I go back to mine. Just like that? Just like that. What if I don't want that?" The question hung between them like a live wire. Yi-chan's expression shifted, something vulnerable breaking through. "Don't say things you don't mean." "I mean it, Sophia. I mean it," she repeated. You've been the only person in the last 6 months who's treated me like I matter. Not like an obligation or an embarrassment or a problem to solve, like I actually matter. So don't tell me what I want. You want someone who doesn't have blood on his hands. I want someone who sees me. Everything else is negotiable. Yi-chan looked like she'd just punched him in the chest. Before he could respond, his phone rang. He answered it, his face going hard. When? Where? I'm on my way. He hung up and looked at Sophia. I have to go. Lock the door behind me. Don't open it for anyone. My guys are outside if you need anything. What happened? Someone just tried to burn down your restaurant. Sophia's blood went cold. What? Fire department got there in time, minimal damage. But someone threw accelerant through the back window. I need to go. No. You need to stay here where you're safe. That's my restaurant, and it'll still be there tomorrow. Right now, I need to handle this. He was gone before she could argue. Sophia stood in the empty apartment, shaking with rage and fear and helplessness. Hana came out of the guest room. What's happening? Someone tried to burn down the restaurant. Oh my God. They spent the next 3 hours pacing, unable to sleep, unable to do anything but wait. At 2 in the morning, Yi-chan came back. There was blood on his knuckles. Sophia stood up. Are you hurt? It's not mine. Whose is it? The guy who threw the accelerant. He's currently explaining to the police exactly who paid him to do it.
The police? I delivered him personally.
With evidence. They're very interested in his statement. Sophia didn't know whether to be relieved or horrified. Did you kill anyone? No. Did you hurt anyone? Yes. But they'll recover. She should have been disgusted, should have been horrified. Should have told him to leave and never come back. Instead, she said, thank you. Yi-chan looked at her like she'd just spoken another language. You're thanking me? You saved my restaurant. I beat up a guy and scared him into confessing. You protected something I love. He closed his eyes. You're going to ruin me. Nothing. He opened his eyes again. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be long, but Sophia didn't move. Who paid him? Seonjun's people. Not Seonjun directly, but close enough, so he's desperate. Very good. Yi-chan almost smiled. You're getting mean. I learned from the best. This time he did smile, small and real. Go to bed, Sophia. You too. I will. He didn't. She heard him moving around the apartment all night, making calls, checking locks, standing guard, protecting her. The next morning, Park Juno called with news. The guy who tried to burn down your restaurant gave up everything. Names, wire transfers, the whole chain. The prosecutor is adding witness intimidation to the charges against Eugene Group. Seonjun's finished. Sophia sat down slowly. It's over? The criminal investigation is just starting. But the divorce? That's about to get very easy. His lawyers called me an hour ago. They want to settle. On your terms. What? They're offering you full compensation for your contributions to his career, the restaurant outright, an independent visa, and a formal apology. Sophia couldn't breathe. Why? Because Seonjun needs to look sympathetic right now. Dragging out a messy divorce with the woman he wronged makes him look worse. His PR team is in damage control modes. So I win by default? You win because you didn't give up. But yes, his collapse helped. Sophia looked across the room where Yi-chan was making coffee. He wasn't listening, giving her privacy, but she knew he could hear every word. Tell them I'll sign, she said. On one condition. What? Seonjun admits publicly that I contributed to his success. I want it in writing. I want it on record. Juno laughed. You're vicious. I love it. I'll make it happen. Before you find out how this ends, let me know in the comments what you think Sophia should do next. Should she stay in Korea or go home? Should she give Yi-chan a chance or walk away? And make sure you're subscribed because the ending is going to surprise you. When she hung up, Yi-chan brought her coffee. You won, he said simply. We won. No, you won. I just made sure you survived long enough to see it. Sophia took the coffee. Their fingers brushed. Neither of them moved away. What happens now? She asked. You sign the papers. You get your settlement. You rebuild. And you? I go back to my life. Just like that, just like that. She set the coffee down. What if I asked you to stay? Yi-chan went very still. Sophia, I'm serious. What if I asked you to be part of my life, not just when I'm in danger? Actually part of it. You don't want that. Stop telling me what I want. You don't know what you're asking. My world is dangerous. The people I deal with, the things I do, it's not something you can just step into. Then step out. He stared at her. What? Step out. Leave it behind. Build something different. It's not that simple. Why not? Because I've been doing this for 15 years. I can't just walk away. Why not? Because people depend on me. Because I have obligations. Because this is who I am. No, Sophia stood up. This is what you do. It's not who you are. Who you are is the man who drinks coffee every Tuesday and tips too much and remembers conversations I forgot. Who you are is someone who protects people because you can't stand watching them get hurt. That's who you are. Everything else is just noise. Yi-chan looked like he was breaking apart. You're asking me to give up everything. I'm asking you to choose something different. There's a difference. He was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then he said, if I do this, if I try to leave, there will be consequences. People who won't let me go quietly, then we'll deal with them. We? I'm not going anywhere. You've been protecting me for months. Maybe it's my turn. You can't protect me from this. Watch me. Yi-chan crossed the room in 3 steps and pulled her into his arms. It wasn't a kiss, not yet. Just him holding her like she was the only thing keeping him standing. You're going to get hurt because of me, he said against her hair. Probably. You're okay with that? No, but I'm okay with you. So we'll figure it out. He pulled back just enough to look at her face. I don't know how to do this, the normal thing, the relationship thing. Neither do I. My last marriage ended with divorce papers during lunch rush. We're a disaster, we really are. This time when he kissed her, it was gentle, careful, like he was afraid she'd disappear. Sophia kissed him back and felt something settle in her chest that had been broken for months. When they finally pulled apart, Yi-chan said, I need time to arrange things. To step back without starting a war. How long? A month. Maybe 2. Okay, you'll wait? I've waited this long for someone who sees me. I can wait a little longer. He smiled, real and full and completely unguarded. You're terrifying. I learned from the best. 1 week later, Sophia signed the divorce papers. Seonjin wasn't there. His lawyer handed over a statement admitting that Sophia had been instrumental in his career development. It would be published in 3 major newspapers. Park Juno shook her hand. You did it. We did it. So what's next? Sophia looked out the window at Seoul stretching out below. I rebuild. Bigger this time. The restaurant reopened 2 weeks later with a new menu and a waiting list 3 weeks long. The fire damage had been minimal, and insurance covered the repairs. Hana was officially made partner. She cried for 20 minutes. Sophia's mother called from Addis Ababa. I'm proud of you. Thanks, Mama. When are you coming home? I am home. There was a pause. Then her mother laughed. Yes. I suppose you are. Yi-chan came to the restaurant every Tuesday like always. But now he stayed longer, helped close, walked Sophia home, didn't hide anymore. People noticed. The tabloids ran stories. Eugen Group whistleblower dating alleged criminal. Sophia stopped reading them. 2 months after the divorce was finalized, Yi-chan came to the restaurant with news. I'm out, Sophia looked up from the espresso machine. What? I'm out. I handed off my territory to someone I trust, paid my debts. I'm done. Just like that, there were some very tense conversations and a few threats, but yes. Just like that. Sophia came around the counter. What are you going to do now? I have no idea. I've never not been a criminal before. You could help me run the restaurant. I don't know anything about restaurants. You know about coffee. And you're good with numbers. We'll figure out the rest. Yi-chan looked at her like she'd just offered him the world. You're serious. Completely. I'll be terrible at customer service. You're terrible at it now. At least this way you'll be on payroll. He laughed, and the sound was so free, so unguarded, that Sophia fell a little more in love with him right there. Okay, he said. Let's try this. The restaurant? All of it. 6 months later, the restaurant had expanded into the space next door. Hana ran the kitchen with 3 new staff members, all Ethiopian women who needed work and stability. Sophia handled operations and had started a coffee import business on the side. Yi-chan managed the finances and surprisingly was very good at supplier negotiations. Turns out years of dealing with criminals made corporate contracts seem easy. The clinical trial investigation had resulted in criminal charges against 5 Eugen Group executives. Seonjin was facing prison time. Mireille had fled to Singapore. The company was being dismantled piece by piece. Sophia didn't follow the news anymore. That part of her life was over. She was sitting at table 6 on a Tuesday evening, going over inventory lists, when Yi-chan brought her coffee. You're going to work yourself to death, says the man who got here at 5 this morning. That's different. How? I don't know. It just is. Sophia smiled and pulled him down into the chair beside her. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the evening crowd through the window. Families, couples, students, all coming to the little Ethiopian restaurant in Itaewon that had somehow become one of Seoul's most talked about places. Do you miss it? Sophia asked. Your old life? Yi-chan thought about it. Sometimes I miss the simplicity, knowing exactly who I was and what I did. But no, I don't miss who I had to be to survive in that world. Who are you now? I'm still figuring that out. Well, you're good at coffee. And terrible at small talk. And you stack chairs wrong. There's a wrong way to stack chairs. You do it backwards. I've been stacking chairs for 6 months. Badly. He bumped her shoulder with his. You're the worst boss I've ever had. I'm the only legal boss you've ever had. Fair point. Sophia leaned her head on his shoulder. Thank you for what? For staying, for trying. For being here, Yichan pressed a kiss to the top of her head. Where else would I be? I don't know. Somewhere dangerous and morally questionable. I'm exactly where I want to be. The restaurant was full of noise, laughter, the smell of berbere and coffee and bread. Outside, Seoul moved past in its endless rush. Inside, two people who had every reason not to trust each other sat side by side, building something neither of them had expected. It wasn't a fairy tale. Yichan still had nightmares about his old life. Sophia still flinched when she saw expensive suits. They argued about inventory and schedules and whether the new coffee blend was too bitter. But every Tuesday he still ordered Buna. Every Tuesday she still made it the old way. And every Tuesday they chose each other again. Hey, Yichan said quietly. Yeah, I love you. It was the first time he'd said it. Sophia lifted her head and looked at him. At this man who'd been a stranger, then a customer, then a protector, then a partner. This man who'd walked away from everything he knew because she'd asked him to try something different. I love you too. He kissed her, gentle and sure, in the middle of the crowded restaurant. Someone whistled. Hana yelled something in Amharic that was probably inappropriate. Customers clapped. Sophia pulled back, laughing. We're causing a scene. Let them watch. Very unlike you. You're a bad influence. The worst. They went back to work side by side, building a life that looked nothing like what either of them had planned. And it was perfect, not because it was easy. Not because the past was erased or the future was certain, but because they chose it, every day. Every Tuesday, every moment. Sophia had come to Seoul 6 years ago with a scholarship and a dream. She'd lost both, married the wrong man, and nearly lost herself in the process. But she'd found something better. She'd found herself, her strength, her voice. And she'd found a man who saw all of it and stayed anyway. The restaurant closed at 11. Yichan locked the door while Sophia finished the banking. Hana had left an hour ago, waving goodbye with flowers still in her hair. Ready? Yichan asked. Sophia looked around the restaurant one more time, at the walls she'd painted, the tables she'd chosen, the dream she'd refused to let anyone take from her. Yeah, let's go home. They walked out into the Seoul night, hand in hand, just two more people in a city of millions. But to each other, they were everything. And that was more than enough. If you made it to the end of this story, thank you for being here. Drop a comment and tell me what you thought. Did Sophia make the right choice? Would you have trusted Yichan? And if you're not subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that button because I've got more stories coming that are going to wreck you in the best way. See you in the next one.